somehow close enough behind to take advantage of it. And I think we're going to see similar things here. It's really going to be all eyes on Method and A. If they pull off their strategy, they're just going to win. That's how good they are right now.
All right, well, let's see how this game matches up as they're getting it together in Freehold for game number 1.
Interestingly enough, so Lighty gets that life cocoon while he's grouping up those mobs, while Skylark, definitely a little bit more aggressive of an approach, runs ahead even before his team, and then doesn't even tank them at all. He immediately just jumps up there. Chompy goes down though. The battle res is coming out. Skylark pops that lingering psychic shell. Chompy ends up accepting the battle res. Skylark needs to get an immense amount of healing right now before he gets so far into Sanguine that it's impossible to get him out.
It is going to be the life cocoon though that does provide that for Skylark. He's still in quite a lot of danger, though, as Method and A are already done with that pull, and on to Skycap and Crag. Ethical, though, look at that. Oh, that is not what you want to see. So what has caused this problem for them after this has started to go wrong is that players are standing between the Sanguine, like there's Sanguine between them and Skylark, and so when the Enforcers toss Skylark at those other players, then everything paths through that Sanguine. And that is what has caused some of the Sanguine healing woes here on the side of Ethical that are going to lead to them engaging this boss dramatically behind when Method and A was able to do it, but Yoda goes down.
Did he get hit by Sharkbait into Sanguine and died?
I believe that
he talks all that trash about me getting hit by Sharkbait?
He may have indeed pulled a Tettles there.
That is definitely pulling a Tettles. I have died to that bird an extraordinary amount of times, and it kind of tilts me at this point.
Yeah, I think they're going to get poop and melee again here. Yes, they will. And the entire strategy here for Method and A is going to have to be adjusted on the fly. They're doing a good job of avoiding this being too bad, but that is going to cost them their battle res and allow Ethical to really catch back up here a little bit.
How do you feel about Yoda and Arrow being on those hunters? So Nagura and I were talking about it, and we suspected that it came down to the fact that both of those were the rogue players for their teams, so they're very aware of how to do the rogue job.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that also, like, Shakib DK and Lip DK are not necessarily mains of those two, but they are, like, second most played specs.
Okay.
Whereas Yoda, I would say, is, like, you know, Rogue, DH, and then Hunter.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. I feel like Lip would... I feel like Lip and Ere would be more likely to play Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, they both do, of course, play Hunter and DK.
True.
It is definitely an interesting decision, you know, when you have the kind of who is going to multi-class in this map to what. Both these teams could certainly field this composition with any of their DPS players playing either of these classes. Shape, though, down on the side of Ethical.
Yeah, both of these teams have a large repertoire of characters that they can play. Like, just all of these guys are immensely good at multi-classing, so... definitely kudos to them for being able to pick it up so quickly. Method and A and Lighty is positioning to be able to do just the most insane pull that we've ever seen. Like, we watch it every single time, and I just still do not understand how they are able to pull this off.
Yeah, this thing has taken Lighty to 1% of his health last time. It almost killed them the time before. Let's see how it goes this time. Everything's looking okay so far. Rally overlapped with some defenses from Lighty, but Shield Wall remains available here. There it is, used right now. Once that Shield Wall expires, Lighty is going to be in danger, and this pack is not all dying yet, but you can see Shakib ascending the damage meters there, blowing all the cooldowns at once. Look at that. That is flawless execution from Method and A.
Oh,
great job by the Death Knights, saving their cooldowns until the end of the pull rather than the start, because if you use it at the end, then you get that huge benefit of that Sanguine Grace period. Everything is dying within that time.
Yep, alright, so now Ethical, they did give a little bit more focused damage to that Crusher. There's going to be a full health Buccaneer, I believe, that is getting stuck out in the very back, but Ethical should be able to pull that Buccaneer and Scrapper into Jolly and Raoul, whereas Method and A has already started on Jolly and Raoul and had them down to 70%.
Yeah, just look at that. Look at the difference in what's happened with Sanguine here. For Ethical, there's a long trail of Sanguine where they were kiting. For Method and A, there are like 20 stacks of Sanguine on a pixel of each other. Great work from them, and great discipline and knowledge from the Death Knights to save their damage cooldowns for the end of the pull.
I think when Yoda and Arrow both get back from doing their pig RP, because Arrow is getting back like 10 seconds later than when Yoda is getting back, which it looks like it shouldn't make that much of a difference, but whenever it comes down to, oh my goodness, the whole entire
Method and A, 4 of them getting hit by that swirling saber. That is a
they got
rough
the
thing
haste
to have
buff.
happen. Yeah, they did. I mean, it was worth. You got to stand in the haste buff. They're going to get through here. 57% on the trash count for both teams. Method and A about half a boss ahead here, but it is only a fortified setting. Half a boss will not be enough to mean there's a victory if something goes wrong here. And you can see Yoda already has made it here and is already... Oh, player's getting yoinked back out of there from that harpooner. Already doing that pig RP, though.
Yeah, so you can actually put that pig as your focus, and then you can bound with interact with mouse over, and you can just like hover over the pig focus and just like spam the button that you have bound to interact with mouse over, and you can complete the pig immediately. It's insanely good for dealing with this.
Yeah, they're doing a great job here of managing all of these different components. Let's see now. This is going to be one of the few remaining operative moments of the dungeon. There goes the Ring of Peace. Everything getting separated. Ludwig von
That's a
Tortollen, though,
full?
is healing to full, and
JB's
J.B.
dead?
is reverse healing to dead.
JB is
don't-
dead. They don't have a battle res.
Well, and he could release now because they're not in boss combat,
But he can't get back.
He can't make it back to the ring because he'll get food thrown at him once he gets close to the ring, but not
Yes.
within it.
So
As we've seen claim lives in other teams before, and it looks like the strategy is going to be J.B's got to wait. He's got to wait for this pull to be over, and then he'll be able to release and run back.
So we do know that Yoda is running that. I think he's running that healing. Okay, no, he's not running the healing ring. He was running that somewhere else. I think they were playing that maybe in Motherload. Whenever somebody was kiting obelisks.
Yeah,
man.
that was a Method EU thing. We saw Ramping playing that in Freehold as well.
Yeah.
But we have not seen it out of Method and A except for when... I'm not sure we've ever seen it out of Method and A.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is
Light is
definitely...
looking like he's okay, though, health-wise. Just the Spirit Mend and his own general
Yeah, he's got to be
self-sustain.
careful, though, because if you watch that Grievous, it's just going to start ticking up on him.
Oh, that's true. He is stuck in a 4-stack of Grievous. Ludwig is 15% HP, though, but... JB just
JB
released
now
now.
releasing. Has to be careful, though, to not get near the Ring of Booty
I
while
don't hate that
this
release.
is still active.
Yeah, no.
I mean, you need to release eventually, because you need to avoid having the... But, because you need to run back eventually anyway. You don't have a battle res. So he is going to get back now. Good job by J.B. I mean, he could have released earlier, but he would have just had to wait anyways. It was either wait while dead or wait at the start of the dungeon. He's back now with his friends.
Yeah, Ethical on the right-hand side of your screen is now going to be down in Ludwig here momentarily. But even then, even with that blunder there, Method and A did such a good job of being able to recover that they're still in the lead.
Yeah, Method and A, they're in the lead, but by a much smaller amount now. If something else like that happens, they will be behind Ethical for sure. As Ethical getting ready to do this same pull that Method and A has just started. Method and A carefully dragging everything into the Ring of Booty here. And they will be pulling Trothak with all of this.
Oh,
and
Ethical does a bigger pull here, by the way. I think.
Ooh,
I'm pretty sure Skylark grabs the patrol, even if it's at the bottom of his pat. That's why you saw him take so long to be able to grab all that stuff, because he has to Lightfoot and just group up everything.
All right, Method and A, pretty good job here. Trothak not getting Sanguine healed. That is the most important thing. Anything else gets a couple ticks, that's fine. Trothak gets a couple ticks, that is a serious time penalty. Ethical doing the same thing now with some slightly more mobs. That will lead to slightly more Death Knight DPS on the side of Ethical. And you can see those two DKs ascending on the meters there. Ring of Peace comes
Nice
out.
ring.
Great positioning on that ring by Chompy. And that is exactly what you like to see. And they have blown up all that trash. 91% now against Method and A.
4% enemy forces count.
Well, they were actually behind by 2% as well before the
so
pull.
6
So 6% better on the pull there for Ethical. And they are pretty close here. So does that mean that they don't need to do that second Ravager pull?
No. Okay, so 91% is not. You don't need to do second Ravager pull. The first Ravager pull gives you 10%.
Okay, so yeah, whereas Method and A needs to go and tag the back Ravager pull in Harlan's platform.
Method and A does have 3 yellows that are with them right now, so do they still need to tag the back Ravager pack?
Let's find out.
Lighty
89,
is getting really
90.
low from a shark right now.
Those sharks are pretty nasty.
Monka S point right shark.
Lip getting oh my goodness. He's gonna be alright.
Okay, so 90%. So I don't think Method and A also needs it, because that Ravager pack is 10%.
Yeah, so we'll see now. Method and A kills Trothak 17% ahead of where Ethical is. Both teams with 2 deaths on the scoreboard, so the death differential will not be impacting this game unless something further happens. Method and A making their way over here. It's all going to be about the execution of this last boss platform. Method and A right now, if they do it perfectly, they're going to win. But if they make a mistake, they will open it up to perfect play from Ethical, taking the series from them, or taking the game from them.
All right, so Method and A
now.
has to wait for that command or that officer to get in a better position since they don't have a distract from a rogue.
And the officer patrol should be the same between these two teams, right? That's on a global timer, I think. So that is going to be something that will help out Ethical because they are not going to have to do that same weight when they get there.
Did you see how they did this? So Shakib gripped one of the mobs. I assume it was probably the oarsman right on top of the other pack, and then Yoda drops his binding on the far 3 to be able to keep them grouped up so that they had no problems with their painful motivation cast. Where if you look at Ethical is having problems because they didn't do it the same way. That's going to be a full health Buccaneer and a full
they have
health.
to. I think what they've done here is they've interrupted one Ravager, and they will now be killing these ones with the second Ravager's cast. But you're right, that is nowhere near as efficient. What is Ethical doing now, Tuttles?
They're going to meld.
Okay,
This is not great.
All right, this does make sense. Yeah, so that second painful motivation cast is going to go through now. They're at 100% trash count. They need to get the Shadow Meld off, and they do manage to do it successfully. Meanwhile, Method and A have started Harlan Sweet. J.B is on his kite path. Ethical will be doing the exact same strategy here. Skylark, though, needs to get to full health. Of course, his health is something that they do need to be careful of in this Grievous environment. If he were to pull this boss with 80% health, that could easily mean that he would die rather than pulling at 100% health without that Grievous starting on him. And there's no way, I don't think, for Ethical to make up this damage difference here without something going wrong for Method and A.
Absolutely.
At this point, all eyes are on Method and A. Will they be able to kill this boss with that kiting strategy being executed by J.B? Really the most important spot for them. Somehow an Iron-Tide Buccaneer has joined the party. Excuse me? What is that thing doing there? That could be a problem
JB
as well.
pull it and it gets snapped by healing threat?
Maybe. That's certainly one possibility. JB now doing his kiting path here. They gotta watch out for Harlan, because if Harlan gets healed up by that Sanguine, that will also be an opportunity for Ethical to get back in here. And Lip and Shakib are in Grievous as well. They do have death strikes. JB getting
corruption slow.
Corruption slowed by the dot component of the Cannon Barrage. Lip getting fairly low on health here. Ethical catching up here in damage as well. If Lip goes down, that will be another 5 seconds assessed against Method NA. He does have death strikes. He does have Spirit Mends. But Lighty is also in Grievous here and ticking down. Harlan, though, taking double damage now below 30% health. They just have to hold on a little bit longer here.
One death strike, one death strike, one death strike.
If they can survive for a little bit, J.B, I think they're going to do it here. Yeah, they're going to be okay. Wow. This is very close, though. Method NA taking this. Game 1, not a perfect run, but it is going to be just enough to take down Ethical.
Yeah, not a perfect run on either side, really, but Method NA still keeping their dominance in Freehold as they take game number 1 there. You just can't beat them here, Zyro.
Even when they make these tiny mistakes, they're just so good at mitigating the problems, right? Mitigating the damage that the mistakes make. Even at the end there, even though it looks scary, even with the 4 stacks of Grievous on everyone, the death strikes weren't coming out. They knew they were fine, and on top of that, they have to be careful with their healing so that they don't accidentally rip aggro on one of those Kited Awakened mobs as well, right? Even that little change at the end there with the corruption slow, usually we'll see JB in previous weeks kite around the Council of Captains room instead of doing what he did. Because he had the corruption slow, he said, you know what, no, I'm going to transcend right now, and we're going to just go back around the circuit again, just opting for the safe play there. Interesting to see just that on-the-fly choice from him as well. These guys are so good at just coming up with ways to stay alive on the fly. It's hard to deal with that.
It is, and it goes to just how much they've been able to optimize and even just learn from other people as well, Titles, for that kiting path and know here's the other pitfalls and here's what's wiped other teams in the past.
In addition to that, ripping healing aggro is something like ripping healing threat and making those awakened mobs snap back to like the group is something that we've seen happen a couple of times. So just the presence of mind to know when they should be healing versus when they're not safe to heal is just lights out for Method NA. Ethical put up a pretty good performance in of their own, though.
That's the thing is, Ethical put up a really big fight here, Zyro, throughout the game. Let's see what you got for us.
Yeah, and I think the story of this game was just all in the healers, right? Yeah, there were a couple deaths from the DPS players, but the real important deaths came out of the healers. Chompy going down in that first pack, making it so his team had to kite it out, didn't have the way of the Crane healing and damage, just really unfortunate timing from them there. But then JB trading it right back when they're on Ludwig von Tortolan, and I heard you guys talking about it as well, with no battle res there, and no way to release because you'll get food thrown at you. They just kind of had to find a way to deal with that mob by single targeting it down. They couldn't even afford to pull extra trash on top of it, because if their tank gets into Grievous, if their DPS get into Grievous, they're going to be in danger. So they lost a lot of time giving it right back there. But I think the really important thing is the fact that both of these healers were able to kind of suck it up, get back into it, not tilt, and go on to pull off that kiting as well after making mistakes. It just kind of shows the mental fortitude these teams have to be at the top level of play, even after making pretty crushing mistakes like that.
Indeed, and, that's going to be one thing we're looking at as we start angling towards Junkyard as our next dungeon here, Dradnos. What kind of mistakes are being made by the players, and what can be done to make up for it if there are any errors?
Yeah, Junkyard is a volatile dungeon. We've seen a lot of teams make big mistakes in here. One team we have not seen do that is Method NA, though. I don't think we've also seen it be too bad from the side of Ethical either, although their run against Limit in the tournament was quite a bit slower than their time trial run. So their time trial, 13-minute run, their run against Limit, 15 minutes. Method NA, meanwhile, were able to get within 20 seconds of their time trial run in this raging Junkyard environment, which is very, very scary. A lot can potentially go wrong in here. We will get to see just how practiced these two teams are in here. I'm expecting clean runs from both teams, despite how dangerous and challenging this dungeon is.
That's right, and, I'm with you on the cleanliness of what our expectations are, because at this point, Tettles, we've seen so many dungeons from both of these teams, and even though Ethical has usually not had the better side of their matchups, they have put up such close fights that they're always in striking distance if Method NA blinks.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they've had a full wipe this whole weekend.
Yeah.
They are a very good team, and they would be able to capitalize on Method NA making any mistakes. And if it were to happen in a dungeon, it would probably be the Yard, because we have seen very many wipes out of Raging Junkyard over the course of this MDI.
I want to talk as well about how difficult this particular map pool is for Ethical to face up against Method NA, right? I misspoke, but there are members of the guild on that team, so you know what? Same thing anyways.
Motherload. His obligations.
Motherload, man, we've seen Method NA have ridiculous times in Motherload. That's probably the worst dungeon for Method NA, so of course they're going to bet on that themselves. Freehold, we know how ridiculous Method NA is at Freehold. 0 death runs all the time, super clean for them. Junkyard, first 0 death run earlier today of all year through these 6 weeks. Talazar, we don't know what Method NA has planned, but because we saw what Method EU pulled off last week, you don't want to see what they have planned there, so Ethical banned that out. And then of course, the Sub 18 Shrine of the Storm earlier today. This is just, there's such a ridiculous team to try to match up and plan for maps against that you're kind of going to lose regardless of what you pick.
Ethical was probably hoping that they could see a Siege of Borealis or Toldagor in the finals, because that would help them out in terms of just map pooling and forcing out bans, because at least they would have at least be on even footing in those couple of maps. But without seeing either of those, yeah, I feel like they're at a disadvantage come all of the maps in the series.
It's so interesting as well.
Very interesting that we're going to be getting into game. Take it away, Dennis.
Absolutely. I was just going to mention that Motherload was banned by different teams the 2 times these teams have played earlier today, which is kind of an interesting place to be in. But we are going to start off with this Junkyard. And we got both teams on the same mirrored composition here that we've seen a lot of teams go with here. Double Death Knight, playing that Demon Hunter in Junkyard in particular, has been a common thing to see, as they have that unparalleled ability to make use of those shock bots. And they bring that magic damage amplifier for not just there, but for everybody else's shockbots too.
Did Skylar grab a shock bar, or did he grab a welding?
There's a welding there.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought he grabbed, and I thought that somebody else walked up and grabbed the shock. Hey, whatever. If somebody else is grabbing the shock that's in that area, it makes sense for him to grab the welding. Method NA has already dealt with their first pull. We know that they bloodlust this first pull because they need bloodlust immediately.
Ethical, though, has gotten a grasping hex going off there. You can see the entire team rooted there does manage to escape. Way the Crane actually, I think, making Chompy immune to that as well. Airy taking a huge hit, but look at how quickly Chompy's Way the Crane just heals everybody here. Everybody's just getting ticked down to 20% and then ticks back up to 100%.
Walls coming out from Skylark. Gobbamac is at 85%. Here comes the charge smash. Everybody getting knocked back. Chompy dipping out of that charge smash right as it goes through because he was at 50% health, so good presence of mind of him. That is the bloodlust out of Ethical, and they're going to be able to finish off this trash pack here in just a minute, but there's still a raging Scrapbot and a raging Trash Tosser.
Yeah, Raging Scrapbot choosing to cast the self-destruct there. Whew, they do a good job of avoiding that.
Okay.
And Ethical here, on pace with Method and A. Despite the fact that they pulled onto the first boss rather than as two separate pulls, somehow Method and A, though, has caught up. Yoda, though, 1% HP.
Whew. So the way that the reason that they are behind-ish is because they spent the time to be able to grab the shock bots. In an MDI scenario, the shock bots are only going to be like 10 to 15 to potentially 20% of your damage if you're playing that Demon Hunter, but more in the 10 to 15% range, especially if you're playing that Unholy Death Knight. So it may not be worth spending the time to go and grab those for AoE purposes solely. For single target damage purposes, Shockbot, like, unmatched, but for AoE purposes, it's not the best thing because it only hits 3 targets.
Yeah, it hits 3 targets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
huge damage, though, to the priority targets. Although, despite that, Method and A here, ahead now in terms of both trash count and the boss's health. Although these two bullies have been pulled in late by Ethical, the two that start by where Goblin spawned. That is going to let them catch back up on trash count. Method and A opting to just leave them be. Whew.
Dude, Chompy hit 300k HPS.
Yeah, he was just wilding out there. Every single global, he was, lay on handsing the whole group.
That is a scary pull. The ability for Ethical to be able to pull that off, just kudos to them. So now Method and Ethical are both down. Gobbamac, Method and A having a slight advantage there. They are making their way into the Trixie and Nano area, hugging the right-hand side as to not pull those reinforced scrap bots, walking around the back end of the Trixie Nano area. Lighty walked to the left side. He is grouping up a bunch of trash, presumably, and grabbing Trixie and Nano, pulling them all the way back here to allow them to not run away on their casts. This is a really, really good technique that we've seen out of teams this not only this weekend, but last weekend as well. You see that shockwave come through to try to get stuff grouped up. There are the Bork Scrap Hounds in here. Very dangerous mobs. Need to also interrupt the mechanics repair. Get those blasters dead as well. Everything here is deadly. I don't think I need to say anything more.
Yeah, as we've seen villains demonstrate, every single mob in this pull can wipe you. And villains managed to show us that 4 different times. Method and A, though, have managed to avoid those pitfalls. Ethical, going to be attempting the same thing here. This is such a dangerous pull, though.
So Trixie ran away. And so Trixie will run away if she's actually in line of sight of any of the spots that... There's like 3 or 4 spots around the room that she can do her little electric slide and run on over to. Her jump start, I guess, is the ability name. So if she's in line of sight of any of those jump start locations, then she will just leave the arena and go to those jump start locations. That's why she was...
it's the electric slide, yeah. That you're talking, the one where she goes up in the air and has the electricity underneath her.
Yeah. I like the electric slide naming it, but it's called jump start.
I'm willing to put my money on electric slide being the name of that one. Jumpstart there is, I think that's when she empowers Nano. And there we go. They're going to be killing off these 2 mobs. Both teams actually somehow Ethical have caught up here. Look at this. The boss health is pretty much the same. They're still going to be a little bit behind here, but not by much. They were 12 seconds behind Method and A, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, when the first boss went down. Their boss 2 split is going to be identical, if I had to guess here. Whoa, a little bit, 1 second faster, actually, by Ethical. And we are on now to the 3rd boss room, Gunker.
All right, so now Ethical is walking around the back area towards the Gunker route where Method and A went out the front. I don't know about where they're running.
Oh, look, we actually, wow, our spectators can see the stealth.
Is that a weaponized crawler?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Tettles. That
can't
that
be
is,
pulled intentionally, right?
I believe that is a surprise weaponized crawler, yes. Those are, I think that's an oopsie when that one gets pulled.
Well,
There's no way that this is part of the plan, right?
there's a very low chance that was pulled intentionally, and thus now that gives Ethical a little bit of breathing room. They are 10% enemy forces count behind, but they are in a better position on the map currently. I don't believe that they're 10% enemy forces count better position on the
Well,
map. But
if they can do it all in one big pull at the end of the dungeon, it could
doesn't
be.
matter, I guess, right?
Yeah, it depends on if they are a pull behind or not. And that is what they will have to answer with the rest of their pathing here. Yeah. Method and A, though, getting into this same kind of big pull action that we're seeing coming out of Ethical. Wow, great execution from Ethical as all of this just melts. Let's see how Method and A does on the same pull. Players kind of... This is an unfortunate confluence of events here.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Lip did not actually get... Oh, Lip is going to die. Lip is dead. Okay. He didn't get dispelled by the revival, so he had 2 stacks of the dot on him, and he AMS just a millisecond too late because the Toxic Monstrosities didn't get grouped up quick enough. They're trying to pull all 3 at once, though, which is twice the pull that we saw from Ethical.
Yeah, Method and A yelling. Oh, J.B.
This is
yoinked
so bad.
through an
Okay,
existing
they're
puddle.
They're dead.
3 stacks on most of the team here. That is going to be the end for Method and A in this pull. And Ethical, a huge opportunity here to capitalize on this mistake. They may have been slightly behind in the dungeon until this point, but now they are definitely ahead. Method and A losing their robots. They're keeping this pull alive. No, they're not. Oh, yes, they are. How?
No, they're not.
Where's Shakib going?
Lip has been gripped in, and now Lip has 3 stacks, and now he's going to die
He's
again.
like, hey, guys, I'm back.
Oh,
what did I miss?
Whitey
getting it as well. A huge healing absorb on him. Does manage to get it dispelled, though, as J.B gets back in range. Dispels that poison. Those Toxic Monstrosities, though, they are large. They are certainly in charge right now, and Method and A, trying to regain control of this dungeon, do manage to take down those Toxic Monstrosities. They've gotten a lot of trash with that pull, but in no universe was that worth.
That would have been worth if they were able to do it cleanly. Triple Toxic Monstrosity is kind of sick.
Yes, it would have been worth, but it was not worth.
Now they have 4 less shock bots because Lighty just got that one.
Yeah, they are... Well, I don't think Shakib actually died on that pull.
Oh, 3 less shock bots.
Shakib somehow is just a liver.
Liver.
That's the term for it.
Big
One
liver.
who lives.
Wait, they didn't get the 3rd toxic... Where's the 3rd Toxic Monstrosity?
It's the little squirt bot takes a little bit of time to run from it. So it's going to take a little while to show up here and then start channeling that water into the middle of Gunker.
Where is it?
That is a great question, Tettles, and one that will hopefully be answered soon. Don't see it on the map
show
here.
up, dude.
All right, there it is.
Okay, so there is a remake policy if the boss doesn't spawn.
It was they killed those monstrosities so far away that the
Yeah.
squirt bots just had a long path to travel to get
we
here.
couldn't see where it was walking. I don't know. Probably because it was so far, it eventually showed up, though. All right, so great news for us. Gunker is about to go down on the side of Ethical, though. Method and A is very far behind.
Yeah, they are now half a boss plus 30 seconds behind where Ethical is at the same trash percentage. So Ethical, they're not actually a wipe ahead here. Somehow Method and A is not a wipe behind after having what was pretty close to a full wipe. I think it's because they've been pulling more quickly, they've been doing the bosses a little bit more quickly, and they were able to salvage that pull, right? They didn't full wipe to it. They kept it going, and they didn't have to go back and pull the monstrosities from 100% again.
That was a good move by Shakib to be able to salvage that pull.
Yeah, that was great play coming out from Method and A, and that's the thing about Method and A is that one mistake from them does not lead to more. They do a good job of immediately recovering as much as is possible. That 3 monstrosity pull, though, is just so nasty because you're getting just gripped around all over the place, and it can be very difficult to avoid getting gripped through the other ones that are currently casting.
Oh my goodness, Skylark is doing the world's largest pull. Okay, so he grabbed a invisible cat pack. He grabbed the pack that's at the top with the cavalry, the middle patrol cavalry, and then all of the coil bearer island on the right-hand side. And this is just Ethical going for broke.
Ethical throwing everything they have at this game against Method and A. They want this win so badly here. And look at how well this pull is being executed for them. Those cavalry under control. They're going to get to their 100% trash count from this pull entirely. Great work by Ethical executing a big pull here. And that is the kind of pull that you need to be able to do to beat Method and A.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Let's see if Method and A is able to do the same thing here. But yeah, Ethical, great performance from them. They're moving into their last obelisk, and after this one is done, they're going to go on to boss here. Tettles, though, it appears they're at 99% count. I think they're going to be going a little bit over count here.
Well, it was either go a little bit over count or segment that last pull into 2 pulls, right?
Yeah, maybe the first pack that was included in it could have been skipped somehow, or maybe just somewhere they pulled something that they're supposed to be skipped accidentally.
An extra grunter or two or something. Now Method NA is running around collecting shock and grease spots.
Yeah, this is not what you like to see here. But it's important to do this. You need those robots, but this is the brutal cost of wiping in the junkyard. Is that run back to go and grab some robots. They will be setting up to try and do a big pull as well, but there is no chance for them unless Ethical wipes here.
It's definitely the walk of shame.
Yeah. Ethical coming out of that Awakened Realm. They will be fighting this last boss here first. It is all about whether or not they can kill this boss. There is an outside chance for Method NA if Ethical fails to 1 phase, but I would not count on Ethical failing anything.
I don't believe that Ethical would fail to 1 phase. Ethical dying to the triple obelisk is far more likely. All of these mobs do a wild amount of tank damage. The wreck plus the Spirit Breaker from Urgroth is just... The crux and the breaking point here is definitely going to be on Skylark. Everybody's standing in that Dark Fury, Chompy, popping that way of the crane, making sure that everybody's topped. He's going over 100k HPS right now. Just doing a great job of making sure that everybody's topped up. Method and A doing a pulse very similar to what we saw from Ethical, just pulling both of the cavalry packs together with all of the those coil bearers.
I wonder if they're setting up to 4 obelisk here. Based on where they're fighting this, I think that they are just going to be going straight to the boss after this.
Well, so the last time we saw them play this, 3 obelisks. They killed Samrak.
Yeah, I wonder though if this is an adjustment to saying, hey, we're behind. It looks like no, they're making their way now to Samrak's portal here, so they are not going to be attempting to, beat a 2 phase from Ethical.
Look at them. Dude, they made it.
Ethical has killed that, so they just have to do the 1 phase now. If Ethical can do the 1 phase, they will force a game 3, a deciding game 3 in this series here. And Skylark getting yeeted back to the front here.
Okay,
that is not what you want to see.
He's the person who finishes the hack anyways, so that's not great, but okay, so they're going to be able to make it. Let's look at what cooldowns they have available to them. So both Area and Shape have Army. They also both have Unholy Frenzy. They have Apocalypse coming up momentarily. Arrow doesn't really have anything, so he doesn't have his meta, but he does have his Fel Barrage.
Yeah, so, that's the important part. Fel Barrage, Blood of the Enemy, I-Beam, that's enough for the damage from a Demon Hunter for this part. And you can see all of that coming out there. Arrow just blowing up, actually, on the meters here. Wow. This boss is melting on the side of Ethical here. They have 35 seconds from when they finish that hack to kill this thing, and I think that they are not only going to beat this check, they are going to beat this check with 10 seconds to spare.
There it is, Ethical taking the win, not letting Method NA get away with any sort of mistakes as they tie up the series, and they're going to push us here into a Game 3's ironic.
And literally what we were talking about right before this match and during this series, this is how you beat Method NA. You play a good enough strategy to where you can capitalize on the mistakes that they made, and Method NA probably one of the biggest mistakes you've ever seen them make this entire season. Yeah. With 6 deaths on the board, still not full wiping to the trash pack, but having to kite it out, spending a lot of time dealing with that. And yeah, Ethical, another 0-death run, the second one all season. Love to see that from them.
That's right, absolutely love to see that great gameplay, and Method NA is tough to beat on this one, so that's just what they're forced into doing. Ethical just choosing perfection as much as they possibly can muster here, Dranos. Very well played, but it's also going to mean that Shrine of the Storm is going to be sealing it up for us.
Yeah, we're going to be heading back to a rematch, again, of earlier today when Method NA and Ethical played in Shrine of the Storm. In this dungeon, Ethical has not had a death and has played it twice this weekend. Well, they had a death right after the very end, but let's not counting that. Things were looking very, very good for Ethical in this dungeon. They lost, however, to Method NA, who did have 1 death, but 17 minutes 51 seconds was an absurdly impressive time from Method NA in this dungeon. Ethical, though, have shown an ability to improve on their previous times. They had some time, they saw what Method NA did in that series, and they had that one match between Goosey Bad and Villains. They could have used that time to go into Shrine and see if they could yoink that pull that Method NA did that was faster than what Ethical was doing. If they have been able to do that, I think that they will easily be able to compete with Method NA here if they can have a clean run.
That's right, man. End of the day, that's going to be what it's all about. And Zyra, let's just start breaking down that wipe for the side of Method NA, or near wipe.
Yeah, well, the problem with this pull is you're trying to pull 3 Toxic Monstrosities on top of each other. The 2 Toxic Monstrosity pull that we see most teams pull off is more easily doable because of how close proximity they are to each other. So by the time they start casting that consume and start gripping players in, they're kind of stacked on top of each other already, so you can run it at both of them. But the start of this pull, the far Toxic Monstrosity pulls people away from the stack of 2. Things get out of hand. They're not able to burst out their AoE damage as quickly, and Lip goes down. And it turns into this game of tag where once the damage is gone from one of the DKs, you just have to kite it out. Shakib keeps the pull alive just barely by running out of range and just running away from these Toxic Monstrosities while their team comes back. But man, this cost him so much time, and it probably gave me one of my favorite moments in MDI history here is while the teams are running back, we saw Lip come down, jump down from the top of the mountain, tries to elbow drop the Toxic Monstrosities, but instantly gets consumed and dies again. I was actually like laughing for a solid 30 seconds when I saw that. The top rope bit is one of my favorite ones in World of Warcraft. Just jumping on top of mobs is hilarious whenever it happens.
Ethical almost wiped to the mass hex going out at the very beginning of the dungeon, by the way. Like,
oh my goodness.
Like literally almost full wipe to that.
Hey, that's why it's almost, okay? That's why it's almost. But that reminded me, I was just like, the first time I went in the junkyard, and I'm like, we can't move. Oh my god, there's a shockwave. And then...
yeah.
And then we all just got mowed down. But thankfully, it didn't happen to them on their side. Now, let's start talking about the Shrine of the Storm. Tyrannical, Teeming, Quaking. We've seen some... I would say lightning runs relative to Shrine of the Storm. We're talking, 17, 18, 19 minutes here, Dratnos.
Yeah, we have, out of these two teams, we've seen Method NA hit 1751, Ethical hit 1940 and with 0 deaths and win against Limit, and then improve that time by 1.5 minutes to 1826, and then lose to that Method NA run of 1751. Now, Method NA's run was not perfect, but it did have some massive pulls in it. That means that there's an opportunity for them to go even faster if they can do it without any deaths. But there's also a huge opportunity for wipes in any of those moments. If things go slightly wrong for them again here, Ethical could win this series if Method NA makes a mistake.
Yes.
Alternatively,
okay. I was going to say, the strategy is definitely better for Method NA and Shrine. Like, how they do the Guardian Elemental plus Runecarver Sorn is minutes, like a minute faster than what Ethical does. But, like Dratnos is saying, it basically, Ethical has to have a deathless run and just hope that Method NA has a mistake.
Or Ethical had to have decided to improve their shrine during their, 1 hour of practice while Goosey Bad and Villains were playing each other, which it's not impossible for them to have chosen to do that, but it would have been a bold strategy, and yeah, that would have been wild. That would be wild to see.
I bet that, I'm pretty sure they were just sitting there messaging me the whole entire time instead of practicing.
Oh.
Wait, what? Hold on a second here.
Tell us you're so popular.
They definitely were not practicing Shrine of the Storm. So it's going to be the same route.
All right. I wasn't expecting some mass differences in terms of routing for a lot of these guys, but I think Ethicals kind of just have to follow that same formula. They will have that opportunity when we start talking about like global finals, for example, Zyro, to go back, look at strategies from either NA or EU to start kind of comparing. But at the end of the day, they just got to be able to make sure right now, right here, they're able to capitalize on any mistakes.
Oh yeah, and we'll see it live right now in Shrine of the Storm as both teams are prepared to go.
That's right. This is the decider match to see who is going to be our third cup champion. Shrine of the Storm is going on right now.
And right at the start, we know that Method NA pulls more trash at the beginning here. J.B bubbles himself here with the Life Cocoon. I wonder if that was supposed to go on Lighty or not.
I suspect that was supposed to go on him. No. I suspect that that's supposed to go on him. Because he's running so close to Lighty right there, if he gets meleeed, he needs that Life Cocoon to be able to stay alive.
Okay. Wow, Method NA have done that pull rapidly. They're going to pull 6 droplets now. What are they going to do with these droplets? They have a droplets and a Shrine Templar.
The Templar is in the starting area, and for some reason it doesn't snap out of the starting area. I don't really know why. So they always pull this drop. They pulled the droplets with the Templar last time we saw this dungeon from them as well.
Interesting. Whereas Ethical, they are going to be just working on this awakened enemy after doing slightly less trash in their first pull. I think, though, that Ethical has the slight upper hand here with the way these two very first pulls line up against each other.
So, the big difference and a major time save that Method NA does, look at JB. So JB is actually not in the Nyalotha realm with his teammates. JB is actually off starting AccuSeer RP. He's in the room already. He walks over there and melds there and lets his teammates just solo or a 4-man Void Weaver out there without him because they don't need him. Whereas Ethical goes all the way into the AccuSeer room with the Malthier and then begins the RP. So that's a way that Method NA saves somewhere in the range of 10 to 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Ethical could adopt that part of the strategy, though, pretty easily. They don't need to yoink the whole first pull, but I agree with you that that part of what Method NA does is indeed better.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and you can see Method NA now doing a snap-on, snap-off strategy here for Void Weaver Malthier to get it to quickly move to the very bottom here. And they will soon be exiting Nyalotha and fighting AccuSeer, though once again, Ethical has pulled the boss first. Big damage coming out from all the members of Ethical. Meanwhile, Lighty going around on the side of Method NA, pulling a bunch of trash right into AccuSeer. Bloodlust popped on both sides here. Let's see what these Death Knights can do to all of this trash.
Yeah, Windspeaker Heldis has also grouped up on the side of on both of these teams, just making sure that they're using that lesser swiftness ward to be able to gain haste and damage. Just getting it right underneath AccuSeer, very valuable. In addition to that, whenever you do get that undertow cast on you while the Gale Blast is going off, the AoE from Windspeaker Heldist, you need to make sure you meld it. You saw, who was it? I think it was Ere from the side of Ethical. He got that undertow while that AoE was going off, instantly melts. Great usage of that.
Both teams now entering the intermission phase here. 3 Aqualings to be killed by each of them. You see they always kind of start off on one of them, try and remove one from the fight. All of their melee DPS killing that one.
So this is interesting.
Off-tanking one of the other ones.
So this is interesting from Ethical. That Templar, I assume, was in a bad patrol, which is why he was so late to get in. Because if you look, he was at like almost full health whenever AccuSeer phased.
Good job by Method NA here, baiting those 2 Aqualings right on top of each other.
Aryan Shape.
Ethical!
Yes! Aryan Shape went down. What happened?
That is
they got
a
hit by the Surgery
catastrophe.
Rush, but how?
That's really, really, really bad news for Ethical. With the route that we already know to be a little bit slower than Method NA's, they needed it to be cleaner, and now they are at the mercy of Method NA here. Method NA, one mistake will be more than enough for Method NA to win, assuming they don't have anything go horribly wrong for them. However, it is Shrine of the Storm. There are still 15 minutes of dungeon ahead of us that can easily wipe a team even as good as Method NA.
If there is a full team wipe, whichever team full wipes is probably going to lose. Basically, full team wipes, there's only a checkpoint at the Lord Stormsong area, and if you wipe on Volzith, you're multi-minutes behind anyways. But the checkpoint at the very beginning of the dungeon, if you get killed and have to run all the way back from the beginning, that is a few minutes run back that you have to trek through.
Yeah, that run back in Shrine of the Storm in particular can be so brutal. Method NA moving on to their very, very big pull now.
Look at this, watch.
This is Runecarver's Sword plus the Guardian Elemental. Massive amount of YOLO coming out from Method NA. 34% was their trash count going into this. Let's see what they can get out of this one. All of the mini-bosses, they say, pulling it all in this courtyard. The entire team is just hanging out in that lesser reinforcing ward, taking those AoE damage hits to the face. Doesn't matter, though, because they have J.B healing and the reinforcing
still
ward.
doing 100k HPS, even
Yeah,
though...
through the reinforcing ward.
That's wild.
It is indeed. They have to be careful here. Quaking coming out. Rough overlap of abilities from Method NA, but they make it look easy as they move into the next reinforcing ward, focusing damage on that Guardian Elemental. Yoda line of sights, a mechanic there of some kind.
Look at, on the side of Ethical, they're doing their more patented slower strategy where it's just all of the... slower strategy. Oh yeah, they pulled all of the trash with Runecarver.
Yeah, they're just... this strategy is more than many teams can handle. Method NA have somehow added to it.
Added
with that Guardian
another
Elemental
mini-boss.
pull. Yeah, and Guardian Elemental is not a mob that messes around either. Alright, Method NA, they are waiting for some DK cooldowns here to recover. Both of their DKs pop their cooldowns on that pull. They don't have Unholy Frenzy available. Here we can see Lighty snapping a bunch of enemies here into this pool, and then snapping them back out to the boss fight here. Great job. Great way to make these enemies move in a way that is how you want them to, right? To move them quickly and in a stacked fashion. Cast going out there from Galecaller Faye. 1 stack of the debuff on the entirety of Method and A. And the boss resets at this time. That is not what Method and A wanted to happen.
That's so bad.
That is, in fact, very, very bad news for Method and A, and that is an opening now for Ethical to catch back up in this game. Ethical lost quite a bit of time on the first boss. I think Method and A have lost a comparable amount of time here with that boss resetting.
Holy moly, that's so terrible.
Yeah, though, you gotta be really careful in this room. You know, if you're using the edges of the room, you're a little bit less likely to get hit by tornadoes, right? Because they won't go outside of the boss room. But if you move the bosses themselves outside of their room, they've had enough. They're going home. They're not paid to go outside of this room.
Method and A is still in the lead, though. Like, the amount of mistakes that, like, the mistake that Ethical had on accuracy was way bigger than the boss resetting by Method and A, because Method and A didn't have like a trash pack reset or anything else. It was just that boss. Ethical, on their side, they are pulling the Guardian Elemental, fully tanking that Shipbreaker Storm with that 4-pack, where Method and A are already down to 70% on Tight Sage Council.
Yeah, Method and A certainly still ahead here. Their route was about a minute or so faster than Ethical's, I'd say. And then we saw Ethical make like a 30-second mistake. Method and A made a 30-second mistake. So Method and A still have an advantage here of about a minute. But on the side of Ethical, another death coming out here. That is going to slow them down once more. They will have to res after this. And they have once again widened the gap now by which Method and A leads. Quaking coming out here. This is a dangerous boss with Quaking active, Brother Ironhull and Galecaller Faye. Especially if you're using the strategy of hanging out in the corner. The reason you hang out in the corner here is that all your DPS can avoid taking any damage from those tornadoes up in the spot there. Tank has quite a bit of work to do in this spot, but with Quaking active, all those DPS tightly stacked on each other, you can see having to quickly maneuver when the trigger does happen.
Alrighty, so now Ethical has begun pulling Tide Sage Council here, pulling all of these initiates right on top of them, not doing the Lighty variant with that snapping them into the water, then snapping them all the way up, getting them grouped up quickly, but nevertheless, everything is still getting gripped in. You do see Arrow here popping that Fell Barrage, all of the damage coming out. Arrow gets kind of clipped by a tornado, but does not go down. Method and A on the left-hand side of your screen, sub 30% on Brother Ironhull. Galecaller Faye going to go down here momentarily.
Yeah, Ethical about half a boss fight behind here, assuming they can deal with all this trash, which it looks like they are going to be able to do pretty successfully here. Airy, though, taking quite a bit of damage. And they are pretty safe here. Are they letting Galecaller Faye cast intentionally here? No, both teams actually had some casts go uninterrupted, I believe unintentionally. We did actually see one of the Method teams in the last split had this strategy, I think it was Method EU, where they would just let it cast when it had the buff up instead of getting tornadoes. Just tell their healer to heal through it. Neither team, though, really using that strategy this time. They're just kicking and getting the tornadoes instead.
I don't know.
There's definitely merits to both strategies, yeah.
They hotfix changed those tornadoes to be a little bit more visible in 8.3, so maybe that's the reason that the change occurred, but I don't know, Dratnus. Do you think maybe players are just a little bit better at dealing with this because of the multitude of ways that we've seen like different strategies occur? Like look at the Ethicals. Look at what Ethical is doing right now. They're tanking the boss near the rock, and the whole entire group is up there on top of that rock and just able to have full uptime. To where only Skylark has to deal with the tornadoes. Do you think that is the reason that teams don't let the cast go through now?
Definitely when they're hanging out in this spot, but at the start of the poll, you know, when they've got all that trash in there, I think if they could survive the damage, it would maybe make sense to let some of those casts go off and not have to worry about being zoned by the tornadoes. Method and A, though, they are working on Samrak, Beckoner of Chaos. They'll be killing it and then coming out of the portal. So Ethical and Method and A have another route difference here. Ethical uses Samrak as a skip. Method and A does not like taking the time it takes to run in Nyalotha. They'd rather run while mounted and use their Skystep here. And just get through this whole area and then Shadow Meld instead of doing that Awakened skip.
Alrighty, so now you see that Ring of Peace coming out to create a little bit more separation out of all the mobs. Just doing a really great job of being able to get those mobs kept and contained back in that area. Now this is going to probably be the last super dangerous pull that Method NA has to deal with. It's going to be all 3 packs on the bridge. Of course, they're going to pull those cultists away quick enough to where that whenever they spawn the tentacles will be out of combat with the whole entire group, because basically Method NA just doesn't need the count for them.
Yeah, those tendies do not mess around, and they cause some problems. We saw Method NA wiping in the finals at BlizzCon last year against Method EU as a result of not being able to dodge because you had to stay in melee range with those tendies.
Necrotic, they're like mega dangerous on Necrotic, but like Dratna said, the biggest problem is that you just have to be in melee range permanently. So it's really rough. But Method NA makes very quick work of that pack. They use both of their Unholy DKs, Unholy Frenzy cooldowns.
Yeah, now it's going to be Yoda's time to shine.
Barrage. Yeah,
here comes the blood of the enemy, the Fel Barrage. 1 million DPS coming out from the DH. Everything goes down, and they are moving into the other side now. On this side of the room, they don't have DH cooldowns, so they're going to use the DH defensive of Darkness instead. And Yoda out healing JB here, coming for JB's healing spot on the roster. Now Shakib is the one actually out at second place on the healing meters. Wow.
Yoda coming for JB's healing spot. Oh, goodness.
Lord Stormsong, the next boss here to be fought by Method NA is Ethical. Just about finished with their skip. So Ethical, 2 pulls behind, maybe?
A pull and a half, probably. They need Method NA to wipe on Volzith.
Yes, that would be the most likely outcome, I think, for... I mean, Method NA wiping anywhere would probably be enough to do it. Wiping on Lord Stormsong would be even more impactful, but it's a lot less likely.
A perplexing move.
Yes, it would.
It's
way less likely, though.
Can you imagine the circumstances that would have to occur for you to wipe on Lord Stormsong with 2 battle reses available?
I feel like you'd have to have somebody get mind controlled and not broken out.
3 times.
Well, no, if it happens once, then they wipe the rest of the group.
Oh, yeah, mind control, not just like die to the MC and the Lord Stormsong Premium Gamer Jacuzzi. Okay,
exactly. Yes. With Quaking active, though, you can actually... So one strategy that you can do is you can stack on top of somebody when you're mind controlled with a Quaking going out, and that will just break you out basically instantly. Unfortunately, here for Shakib, the Quaking timer right now, it's gonna be quite a while until the next Quake, so he's gonna have to go and do this the old-fashioned way. Comes actually back into the group here, and there's a Quake. Let's see if somebody stands on him. No, he's gonna run out, and now he actually doesn't need to get DPS down. Do manage to break him out of that MC, though.
Not even hard. Yeah, but the Quaking is a really good use. Also, explosive. You can use that as well.
Yeah, you can. That does more damage to the group than just standing on one person for a Quake, but it certainly can be used to break somebody out.
This is a fairly low tank damage boss encounter. I don't feel like... Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could
if you get the debuff from the boss, you probably could get comboed, but...
AMS coming out from the members of Method NA, and that is good enough to prevent that Ancient Mindbender from going through. Ethical engaging Lord Stormsong, so they are 75% of Lord Stormsong's health behind where Method NA is. Both teams have the same trash ahead of them, but Method NA, we know, does this last boss room faster as well. They pull trash onto the last phase of Volzith, whereas Ethical not able to do that just yet.
Alrighty, now they are swimming through the water. Put on your Shimmer Scale diving suits. They don't have them, but put them on anyways.
Yeah, those are very useful to have on the live keys, not allowed on the tournament realm, unfortunately.
Okay, so we've seen this in the past. Lighty lets his teammates walk onto the platform first, and then he groups up 2 packs of eels, comes out of the water, and then pulls them into Volzith. If one of the eels gets like stuck in the ground, then they could potentially reset Volzith, so it is a very dangerous strategy. But Lighty mitigates that risk by swimming around in the water to try to make sure that all of the eels are not going to be stuck in the rocks.
Ethical nearly having some deaths here on Lord Stormsong. Airy dropping so low, does manage to live though. And yeah, here we go now. This is going to be it. If Method NA can execute this boss fight, they will win our 3rd cup in a row, and they will cement their dominance over this region in a feat that Method AU was unable to do in their region.
Is that
having lost that last cup?
Is that Azerite that drops the war banner?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is.
JP is running Stronger Together, which is your abilities have a chance to plant a banner representing the Alliance race for 10 seconds, granting you and 4 allies 643 of their primary stat or 435 of a secondary stat.
Yeah, we've seen actually those little banners coming down a few times in the MDI. That's the
healer
Azerite
stuff?
trait. Well, the thing about healers is that, you know, your
Say it.
healer traits let you do better stuff, but if you run stronger together, that helps the DPS do better DPS stuff.
Yeah.
And DPS players are just going to make you do that if you're a healer in the MDI. If you're a healer in the MDI, basically anything that could help you is going to be a second priority to whatever can help the DPS you're playing with. That's just how it be.
I think that's how healers are in general, right?
Yeah, it's true. You know, once you are doing enough to keep everybody alive, everything else you're doing is just to optimize DPS. That is the way
Including
that
doing
improve.
damage yourself. Like, it's not
Yes.
it's not just about like your DPS's DPS all the time.
Right.
It can potentially also be about doing damage yourself.
Yeah, so like we see the Forbidden Obsidian Claw on both of these healers to do damage, especially on this last boss here. That's a huge amount of extra single target that they get to bring from that trinket. But yeah, it's all a trade-off. It's just, you know, once you have enough to keep people alive, which is an interesting question, how much do you need to make that happen? Then everything else you do is to optimize for either your or everybody else's damage, whatever's going to yield the fastest dungeon run. Ethical also pulling onto the boss here. We saw them able to push Volzith a little bit lower than Method and A were the last time.
They'd have been like 75 or so.
77 was the number I saw. Let's see what they can hit this time, though. I think they're going to be able to beat that. Yeah, they will. 76 now, as Volzith continues to drop for them,
75.
casting its grasp.
Yeah, so their one phase should be fairly easy. I didn't think
The problem
Method
is they don't pull trash onto it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel like Method and A's one phase was that complicated either.
Oh, JW goes down on the side of Method A.
This is really
Instant
bad.
battle res comes out.
Now they're gonna miss the one phase, the caster curse. Oh no.
And this could be it. This could be Ethical's opportunity to steal here because now J.B does not have those promises of power. It is restacking up on him, but it is not active right now. And instead of being the top damage dealer of their group right now, he is going to be doing very little damage for the next little while. They are still potentially in range to one phase Volzith. If everybody in their group just keeps doing as much damage as possible, they might still be able to get this
I
here.
don't think they have it.
28% on Volzith. Once that energy bar reaches full health or full energy, he will then do a cast. He may also do some casts beforehand. You might have a little bit of extra time. 19%, but JW goes down again on the side of Method and A. They do have another battle res.
Right now.
They get him back up. He comes back up into the fight here. 13%, 10% on the side of Volzith.
Look at Ethical. Look at Ethical, dude.
He's starting to grasp the Sunken City.
Position.
7%, 6%, not enough for Method and A. They are going back downstairs. And that Denizen is going to reset for Method and A as well. They do not have count. They're going to have to kill that Denizen again and Volzith once they come out here. Yeah, that Denizen is resetting to full health here. Ethical has the opportunity to steal here, but they still have to go fast as well. They are coming out of this phase. They have to kill this 3-pack, and then they have to one-phase the boss faster than Method and A can come out of their downstairs phase, kill that Denizen, and then kill Volzith. Wow, this is going to be so close, Tunnels.
So Volzith's at 6% health, but if you're able to maintain combat, if you're able to maintain combat after Volzith dies, you still maintain that promises a power buff. So they're going to kill Volzith first and foremost, and then they're going to turn their sights on that Sunken Denizen.
I think they're just going to pull them both together as soon as they get out here.
Exactly. They need to pull it immediately so JB doesn't lose that buff. Okay, look at Skylark. Skylark is grabbing all the eels now.
That is going to be the Volzith dead, though, for Method and A. They have to kill this Denizen before Ethical can do the whole boss fight. I'm pretty sure they have the ability to do this.
Oh my goodness,
this is going to be the win for Method and A.
Buff, but
wow, this was so close. Method and a sloppy run from them that would have lost to either of Ethical's runs earlier this tournament. But Ethical has even more go wrong, and that is going to make Method and A our third cup champions for the third cup in a row.
Oh, absolutely nail biter on that one. Method NA somehow, some way, always getting a good opportunity to bounce back from any sort